Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining. So we're on Karika number 7, and if you have not checked out the other verses of the Samkhya Karika, I'd suggest you check them out. It's a wonderful philosophy. It's in some ways a little bit cold. There's not a lot of emotion in the Samkhya Karika. It's all about absolute reality, right, or observation of like this absolute reality. So anyway, so in 7. This, I really like verse 7, mainly because even though it's attempting to describe how we are the limitations of our perception, I will get into also like how misunderstandings happen because we can't fully understand, well, everything that absolutely exists. So the verse goes like this: on account of excessive distance, proximity, injury to senses, inattention, minuteness, obstruction, suppression, and mixture with what is similar, even the existent objects are not perceived. Perceived. All right. So in Samkhya philosophy, essentially, what we're trying to get to is, well, at least in this verse and the verses surrounding it, is a lot about material nature. Remember that in this philosophy, you have like these two realities. One, which is prakriti, right, material nature. This one is all that we can perceive. And this is with tools and without tools. And then there's purusha, right, or nya, the knower, the state of the knower, the state of the spirit. So prakriti is maybe more complicated in that there are many facets to it. The Purusha, the spirit, is complicated because it's so difficult to understand. It's intangible. And I guess tangibility here is probably an ideal word because in Prakriti, material nature, there is a there's substance, right? There's a concrete substance that can be observed. But even still, the Kapila, right, the author of the Samkhya philosophy, states that we still miss things. Right? And this is where misunderstanding comes into play as well. So, in previous verses, we have, what can be understood, seen, and observed. Here, there are things that are observed that, well, we might just miss, quite honestly, for one reason or another. Right? And again, they are excessive distance. Simple, right? Maybe we can't observe the Alps because, well, at least I do not live in Switzerland or Italy or France, Germany and Austria as well, I think. And then proximity, right? there's a possibility that a thing cannot be observed, and Gautacharya mentions in his commentary here the fluid within one's eye, right? It's so close we can't see it, right? Injury to the senses, right? That makes sense, right? If we have, like loss of hearing or something like that, then we can't fully hear what might be going on around us. And even then, right, our own senses are limited. Think about a dog's ability to hear, I think something like 10 times, 6 times, something like that. Range, the range of tones, more so than us. That was a terrible way to put that, but you know what I'm getting at, right? And the same thing with smell, right? Dog can smell, I think, maybe up to 100 times more so than we can. Of course, our vision is a bit greater, but think about the mantis shrimp on the other hand, right? The mantis shrimp can see a spectrum of light that we could not even fathom. And it's just a little tiny shrimp. So anyway, so injury to senses though. Inattention. Well, there you go. Inattention, not paying attention. Right? Sometimes we miss things simply because we miss things. And this is one I would love to dwell on because think about misunderstanding. Right? Misunderstandings usually arise because we are not part of another individual's personal experience. So even though we're talking about physical reality here in Samkhya philosophy, applying this concept to the struggles, potential struggles of others, it applies. It simply applies. We do not have the tools, and essentially that was what Kapila is getting at here. We don't have the tools to fully understand another person's uh, lived experience, and therefore we don't know. We can't judge them and say, "Hey, like you should not be feeling this way. Why do you feel happy? Why? Why are you so sad?" It's not the way it works. A person's lived experience is their own. There are a number of factors that go into that, and therefore we are misunderstanding, right? And the same thing is with attention, right? We haven't given our full attention to somebody else's life because we're consumed with our own life, right? And even then, as Kapila mentions here, we're not always, kind of turned on to the things that are happening around us. Minuteness. In this case, we need tools, right? Minuteness. So we might need like microscopes, electron microscopes, things to get into, like, say, the quantum realm, right? The things that are existing around us um, that are unseen, again, because we don't have those built-in tools. But hey, we can actually nowadays build tools so that we can observe a world that is beyond our normal perception. Still, it exists, and yet we discount it because we oftentimes don't understand that it's there. Obstruction, right? Obstruction, you can go back to like injury and distance, same concept, essentially. Suppression, right? Well, when we're actively suppressing like a sense perception, we should also note that there's a lot more senses. Oh gosh, I really wish I could recall some of those senses, but proprioception, I think, is a wonderful sense that we oftentimes don't consider. Equilibrium, also a sense that we don't consider. They're not, part of the traditional organs of perception that allow us to kind of take in the outside world. But these are also things. But so anyway, suppression, right? When well, I, used to have something I should do, and those of you that practice with me occasionally practice with a blindfold, right? Suppress that sense, and then all of a sudden, the sense of touch will become enhanced. 5, 10 minutes into practice, because you have to rely on what you're feeling around you. And mixture with what is similar, right? Kind of mistaking one object for another, if you will. By object, I mean, again, anything that might be able to be picked up by the senses. If you're smelling, maybe you're smelling something being baked, and you're like, oh man, it smells like cookies. I can't wait to eat those cookies. And then you go into the kitchen and it's granola or something like that. Also delicious and better for you. So so enjoy. All right, so these are the ways in which the prakriti, right, material nature, might be misunderstood, right, and that misinterpretation of things could potentially lead to, of course, what we largely call in yoga vidya, right, a lack of knowledge, right, being without knowledge or ignorance. And this is why I really brought up, you know, Mm, you don't have we'd never have the ability to take into full account what another person might be feeling based on maybe a shared experience. So, you might be watching a movie, one person might love, another person might hate it. And, it's, those things happen because of, well, multitude of reasons, any multitude of reasons. But usually it's because of lived experience. So let's be mindful of those misunderstandings, right? Those misinterpretations, because they might affect our relationships. In the case of Samkhya, in this part of the Karika, it should be noted that ultimately we're trying to understand our own ability to understand the physical world around us. That's kind of it. It's wrapped up in, kind of a nice little bow. It's not too complicated, but we can complicate it if we'd like. All right, keep up your practice. Have fun, and thanks so much for joining. Peace.